Hey guys, welcome to another podcast here on BroTalk. We will be discussing now Law 29 and Law 30. Very interesting chapters in which we could all learn a lot, great stories, ways that we can apply to our daily lives, either with friendships or at work. So please tune in, listen to the podcast, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, I always start with one, right? Law 29. We're past halfway of the book already, so that's great. That's good news. But Law 29 talks about planning all the way to the end. The judgment of Law 29 is the ending is everything, plan all the way to it, taking into account all the possible consequences, obstacles, and twists of fortune that might reverse your hard work and give the glory to others. By planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances and you will know when to stop. Gently guide fortune and help determine the future by thinking far ahead.
All right.
Very interesting chapter. I think one of the things about this chapter always that one thing at least I took on this chapter was to like always be like a few steps ahead. Don't really focus on like the short term. Focus
hmm
on the long term.
hmm
Consider the consequences of your actions, and one at least a lesson that I got from here was that true power belongs to those who anticipate obstacles and outcomes before they happen. So
hmm
the moment you're able to think ahead and not think narrowly, right? Think
hmm
big picture. Think, you know, if I do step two now, how will it affect my step 10? Instead of just taking it step by step and going,
hmm
one step at a time. If you're able to look ahead of time, I feel like you're able to avoid a lot of stuff and you're able to take more of the glory towards yourself.
hmm
So that was kind of a lesson I took out of this chapter. Any thoughts you have?
So I think this is a chapter for people to really overlook and not really delve deep into it because,
Why is
and
that?
I even wrote some notes here in my book right here. Can you see the writing?
Yeah.
I took a lot of notes here. So, a couple things. So, from my understanding after reading this chapter, and listen, I've done this as well. I've made this mistake as well. This chapter, what I'm taking, and I think it's important for people, and they can apply this to their career, money, relationships, and so forth, is that planning is not really about control. It's about removing surprises that can come along the way. Because when you are truly planning till the end, whatever decision you're trying to make, and you're
Hmm.
looking at all the possibilities, right? Again, it's not that people who strategize a lot are predicting perfectly, like they're not prophets, right? But they're preparing psychologically so nothing can shock them, right? And most of us do not plan all the way till the end. And I think this is the interesting part. I think if we as humans or we as people, we know where we lack psychologically or where our downfalls are, and we can learn why scientifically or even on a humanistic level why we don't do certain things. I think then we can become more aware, right? So, for example, and I found that a lot of different interesting ideas. For example, the reason why for a lot of us, if we translate this to real life, for example, and I see this a lot with careers where it's like someone will say, I want to become wealthy, or I want to be comfortable, or make more money. Okay, that's not planning ahead. You just said a statement. That's something that you would like, but you're not planning all the way till the end to prepare for something like that, right? And the reason is because a lot of times we as humans, we like to think short term thinking by default. Our brain likes to prioritize immediate gratification or immediate relief over long term thinking because long term is going to take a long time. We're not going to see anything tangible for a certain amount of time, but I want to feel it now, right? And the way we see that is Well, the way I've seen this is like very popular is two ways. Should I, as an individual, should I spend or should I invest now? Should I go spend $1,000 here in Macy's, where I'm going to get the coolest clothing, or should I put this thousand in the S&P 500? Let's say, for example, right? Or hey, I don't want to go to college because it's going to be so much time and whatever. So I'm just going to go work at McDonald's. Hey, they're going to start paying me $26 an hour. I mean, I'm not saying I don't think that's the actual rate, but I'm just saying $26 an hour. I'm going to go for that. Okay, and maybe that is the right decision. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but by default, we're thinking short term. This is going to give me gratification, either the way I'm going to look or the money right now, and let me not focus on the other. So first of all, we as people, we're thinking short term by default, right? I also think that a lot of times we will act like this, or we'll think short term thinking by default because it protects our egos. Do you know what I mean?
Protecting your ego and what, in what way?
So, for example, when you plan ahead, right? You're saying whatever you're going to plan for in 5 years. I want to make $250,000 in this company. Let's say,
Okay.
and then right. But planning does two things for the long term. Where it says here, plan all the way to the end. It creates psychological discomfort a lot of the times, and planning can expose your fear of failure. Because if let's say you planned everything ahead, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm thinking of all the outcomes. But then let's say you plan everything, and then in 5 years you don't hit your goal. Guess what? You quote unquote, you failed, right? But now you have to own the failure because you did everything. You're like, I planned this, I did this, and I still failed. I'm a loser, or I'm this and that. It affects your ego. But if you don't plan all the way to the end and you're more vague and you're more into short-term thinking, when you do fail, you don't really blame yourself. You're like, hey, listen, I was kind of thinking this, but things didn't go my way. I didn't plan all the way till the end. So,
Isn't that more like a short term? I mean, like a mindset, because like you could a person that can plan short term, it doesn't affect the ego. I didn't plan ahead. I was just going with the flow, whatever. But
correct.
the long term thinger could be like, this is what I plan to do in 5 years. But if it doesn't hit in 5 years, it doesn't hit in 5 years. Maybe the goal is just going to take longer. Maybe it'll be 6. Maybe it'll be 7. But you know what? My goal is 5. Whether I achieve it or not
Mm,
is obviously up to time. But
mm.
it's not going to hit my ego.
So, but okay, so but right there, so I see what you're saying. The
Hmm.
thing with that is that most people confuse goals with outcomes. So you just said, like, let's say the person is like, my goal is to do this in 5 years, but if it takes longer, then whatever, it takes longer, right? So, and I've fallen for this too. People think that, hey, I set a goal, that's the outcome. A goal equals an outcome. Like, I want to be wealthy, I want to have freedom, I want to be respected, I want to do this in 5 years, right? But you got to replace those statements with an end state clarity, right? So being a lot more specific. So, for example, instead of saying I want to be wealthy in 5 years, you say no. In 5 years, I want to be making $250,000 a year from my main income, and
Hmm.
from my side business, I want to make an extra $30,000, working 3 hours on the weekends, and on my main income, working 35 hours. And the way I'm going to do it is X, Y, and Z, and then you can continue. Now you are replacing your goals, this very vague statement, with an end state, very clear end state on how you're going to do it, right? Because the person who says, but if it takes longer, it takes longer, you're not really planning till the end. You're just saying, I would like that. And if it takes longer, it takes longer. But this chapter is planning all the way to the end. So you're looking at all the options, at all the outcomes.
You're
Again,
saying be specific.
you got to be very specific on how you're going to do things. And listen, I'm not the best at this. So for me, I would hire someone to help me think like this. Say, listen, this is my goal. I want to be wealthy in 5 years. This is the career I have. This is how much I'm making. This is how much I'm spending. Help me be more specific with my outcomes and what I can do to actually get there. What can I do? You help me think like that, right? And now you have someone else that can help you be a lot more specific with your outcomes, right? But people like to be vague because vagueness can protect your self-esteem. Because if you don't hit your goal, you're like, hey, but listen, I knew this wasn't going to happen and I didn't plan for everything. So, I'm not disappointed. But you're really just protecting yourself self-esteem. That's it.
Well, yeah. Okay. So what you're saying is to not dig deep into this chapter, but you should plan all the way to the end.
No, no, no. You should definitely don't overlook this chapter.
Oh, don't overlook it. I
Yeah, don't
misunderstood.
overlook it,
Sorry.
because people might think, oh, it's just planning on the head. Okay, fine. But
I
so
mhm.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no, go, go, go. I'll say what I had to say.
I also think other than the self-esteem thing, right? And that, by default, we as humans, we are short-term thinkers.
Hmm.
I think the second thing is more of a problem, which I'm going to say now, is that we as people, we overestimate our ability to figure it out later. Oh, I'll figure it out later. Don't worry about it. And a lot of times, that can be that mentality of like, I'll figure this out later once I get closer. For certain things, I understand. Like, some people, they want to start thinking of vacation a year from now, right? Right? You and I
Right.
know something like that. But in that case, you could be like, listen, once I'm much closer, I can think of the vacation because I'm closer. But when it comes to planning till the end in different aspects of your life, I do think having the mentality I'll figure it out when I'm there is a mix of a bias, an optimism bias, and a fallacy when it comes to planning. Because people are assuming when time gets closer, or that event, future problems are going to become easier. People assume that motivation to do that thing is just going to magically appear,
It's gonna stay the same. Yeah.
and that the future version of you, without doing any work, is going to be more disciplined and better. The reality is that future you is going to have more problems. It's going to get more complicated. It's going to be harder. And unless you don't do any work, you're going to be the same amount of more. You're going to have the same amount of discipline and motivation. So when people say, "I'll figure it out later," yeah, with certain things, it's understandable. But if you're trying to really be successful in different aspects, you cannot do that. You have to assume my life is going to get more difficult and harder. I need to start working now to become more disciplined, accrue, find ways to motivate myself. So when I do get there, I'm actually able to do it, right? Because me saying I'll figure it out later is not a plan. It's you avoiding the future problem, right? Real planners, or people who are really planning till the end, or who are better at it, let's say who are better at it, they will front load the difficulty right now. Let's deal with it now. So then later on, we already know and we don't get any surprises. Because remember, real people who are better at strategizing, they don't predict perfectly. As I said in the beginning, I wrote it. They just prepare themselves psychologically so nothing will shock them. They were prepared for any option, and they got different multiple outs just in case.
There should be a clip right there. You spoke lots of wisdom right there.
Please clip this.
I mean, no, it's very true. I mean, there's an interesting quote. I think you've heard of it before. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, right?
Mm,
So, meaning that the ending counts a lot. And
yes.
like you said, people assume that they're gonna have the same motivation, that they're gonna be still in the same financial situation, that um nothing is gonna come up, no family emergency, at least speaking financially, right?
Mm,
Nothing's gonna come up in their lives that is gonna change this outcome, that or this goal that they have right now. Therefore, they're just gonna go with the flow instead of, you know what, let me plan ahead, right? Let me think ahead. So I think it in through a financial way, it or wanting to achieve a goal, especially in finances, it's a great way to approach, or the right way to approach a situation, right? Because we don't know what the future holds. But if you start to plan ahead and start to assume what could potentially happen, then you're always prepared for it, right? That's the whole point of, like, in a sense, having like a savings account, right?
mm,
Where you could be investing, you could be taking vacation, you could be doing a lot of stuff, but you have a backup plan. Why? Why? Because you're thinking 10 steps ahead, thinking, okay, if something ever happens, I always have access to something to be able to take care of God forbid what can happen in the future, right?
mm.
So definitely agree with this. They say that quick money without like long-term planning often leads to like collapse.
It's true.
So I think,
Very wise words.
Yes, it's a great way to apply it financially, but I also think it could be applied like through relationships wise, right? When you're like in a relationship and you're talking, whether in a relationship or marriage, sometimes temporary win doesn't mean a long-term win, right? Only because your ego wins at the moment and you have a temporary satisfaction of, let's say, winning the argument or saying something through emotion, you damage a long-term trust that you have with your partner, right? Instead of like thinking ahead, thinking beyond emotion, maybe thinking logically, consider the future consequences that could come with you saying this statement or with you taking this action, right?
Mhm.
If I do this, what is the end, right? That's in a sense planning ahead
Mhm.
in a different way, but it is planning ahead, right? Like instead of taking a short-term win, sometimes you just let it be, and then you could take a long-term win, right? And not acting through emotion. I don't know if you could see the relevance in this when it comes to
Yes.
relationships as well.
No, yes. And the way that you're looking at it is like, if I want to have a successful relationship, I gotta think ahead on what I'm saying or how I'm approaching the person.
Mhm.
I also, because we can go at it from that angle. We can also go at it like, if your goal is to have a good husband or a good wife, you're like, listen, even though I'm not ready right now, but I want a good husband or a good wife, but I eventually want that. You have to plan, right? I mean, you can't plan the event. You can't plan, oh, it's going to be this person, but you can position yourself better by planning to get that eventually,
Work
right?
on yourself.
What?
You mean like work on yourself?
Not only working on yourself, but also putting yourself in a position where you attract those types of people and those people come to you, where you're looking for the wifey material or the husband material, right? And
Correct.
not just the quick hookup, right?
Put yourself in the right circumstances.
You're putting yourself in the right circumstances, because even though you put yourself in the right circumstances, it doesn't mean it's going to come immediate. Especially if that's not what you want right now, but you eventually want that. You cannot say, "I'll think about it once I get there." What you can start to do is you can start doing little baby steps to eventually get there, right? But you got to define the end state. Like, hey, in 3 years, I want to be with a good woman who looks like this, has type of career, has these values as me, and she's part of this group or this circle. Okay, so now that I know the end goal, right? Sorry, the end state, and you're clear about it, you can start to do little things to get there. Because by the time you're actually ready, I have noticed this a lot of times when people are like, okay, I'm ready for this goal now. They're like, oh, okay, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Okay, but did you position yourself where now you're attracting those people, or you're attracting the money, or you're attracting that promotion, or you're attracting whatever the case is? No, you didn't position yourself. So now that you feel ready now, you feel ready, but everything else in your positioning, you didn't plan all the way. So now your planning starts now. So now you're really going to get this, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. When you should have been planning this already, it doesn't mean you have to jump the gun. Just start to position yourself where eventually, when you are ready, you will then get it at the right time because you position yourself.
I feel like most people actually, maybe the average human being, just puts themselves out there in a sense. Okay, I'm ready for this, like you said. I want to start doing this, and therefore they start, you know, throwing themselves at it 100%, but they never planned for it.
No, well, some people, I wouldn't say everyone does that. And,
Well,
and
not
I think,
everyone, but
what?
I would say majority, in my opinion.
I think with certain things, you just have to throw yourself because there's no way else of doing it. You just got to do it. Other things, I
But
think you have to build something, build a skill, build on you, or build something. Then you can throw yourself.
okay, but I think for the important stuff in life, you definitely need to plan.
No, yeah, and that's what the chapter is saying. Like, you need to be like, for example, on page 243,
Hmm.
this chapter says, when you see several steps ahead and plan your moves all the way to the end, you will no longer be tempted by emotion or by the desire to improvise. Your clarity
I did
will
highlight. Yeah.
what?
I highlighted. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Your clarity will rid you of the anxiety and vagueness that are the primary reasons why so many fail to conclude their actions successfully. You see the ending and you tolerate no deviation, right? Because you plan ahead, now it's more logical. It's more like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I know what to avoid. I know what to go for. I know the plan. I know that there could be certain, chaos can come, or maybe something can go bad, but I'm ready for a lot of these things now. Again, it's not perfect, but you position yourself in a better way than anyone else or most people,
Mm.
right? So like for example, it's like, okay, I want to be making, I don't know, like a $250,000, in the finance district. Okay, but did you go networking? Did you call up companies? Did you learn the jargon? Like, are you doing the things to position yourself that once you're ready to just throw yourself, you're ready because you saw several steps ahead on what you have to do. So now that you're on the plan, you don't deviate and you're not pulled by emotion or stress. There's less of all that stuff because you already planned ahead.
Right. What I mean is, I get what you're saying, and it 100% makes sense, and I'm even starting to connect on how being vague could is not good because it protects your ego. Therefore, you're never really able to understand why you didn't get to your goal,
Mm-hmm.
because you never actually put like specifics into it, right? But it says at the end of the day, um, at the end of that paragraph, it says you see the ending and you tolerate no deviation, meaning like you're ready to attack it fully because you plan. But what I
Mm-hmm.
mean is like at least in my experience, I've seen a lot of the average person go into stuff without planning, right? Oh, I see that crypto or forex is making a lot of money. Let me start putting money here. Let me start
Mm-hmm.
putting money over here because everyone else is doing it. But that's not as simplistic as that seems, right? Only because you saw a post on social media or someone else doing it, doesn't just mean you could just throw your money into it, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
some type of planning, there's certain type of investigation that you need to do before you even start taking that action, right? Maybe start learning about the market. Maybe search up, at least nowadays, like YouTube videos, right? Successful people, what do they do, right? um how I need to study it in a sense, right, before I throw myself out there. And I feel like a lot of people just like act quickly
Mm-hmm.
without having necessarily have a plan behind it on what they're going to do. And I'm not saying that for certain situations you can't do that, but I feel like a lot of those things come through obviously the type of character you have and or prior experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I definitely do understand what you're saying, and I'm glad that you're starting to make the connection. Uh-huh.
Sometimes you need to act, right?
Yeah, of course. No, no,
Sometimes
yes.
act, but a lot of those, a lot of times that you need to act, not a lot of the times, but some of the times that you need to act is because maybe you've had prior experience in this, and then you know how to go at it, right? So it's very easy for you to attack the situation. But there's other things that involve a little bit more thinking because you've never been put in this type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, instead of coming at it through emotion, you really got to think. You got to plan. You got to, okay, wait, before I lose money or before I lose a relationship, before I lose trust, what should I do in a sense? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of just Jesus take the wheel, right? You kind of have to, in a sense, strategically think and not just react in a sense.
Mm-hmm. No, but even what you said, like certain people are they're able to just do things because they have experience in something. Even doing a little bit of something
Yeah,
can
prior experience. Yeah.
a prior experience already kind of can help you plan ahead because like, oh, I did this, it didn't work, so I got to do this now, right? And again, this chapter is not saying have to have analysis paralysis, which is like all you do is analyze and plan, but you don't do anything, right? Because a lot of the times people will just act, but they won't plan. Because again, I think it depends on what we're talking about. Some
It
things are
does,
easy to just act versus plan all the way.
right, and it does depend, but a lot of people also overvalue the experiences they've had.
Overvalue? What do you mean?
Meaning like, okay, yeah, I've done this and I've done that. How long have you done it for? How much have you studied for? Yeah,
Uh,
I saw a few videos. Yeah, I've been investing here, this and that, and this and that, but you haven't done like a full on strategy or plan to really attack the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the best thing I could really think about is like sports. I mean, just because I play sports, but that's the best comparison I can give it to. If you don't know all the rules of the game and you just play because you know how to dribble the ball and know how to shoot it,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the point of the whole game, right? You have to learn how to be a team player. You gotta learn how to pass. You gotta know what's a travel, what's not a travel, what's a carry, what's not a carry. You know, what's a sidestep, what's uh, a moving screen. You know, what's baseline, what's 94 feet. You know, there are different terms and stuff that you have to study for and to know ahead of time to
Mm-hmm.
really execute at your maximum in a sense, right? Especially if you want to be successful. And it's not that you have to have it perfect. You don't have to have it perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but you could be striving to be close to it, right? And obviously experience is what's also going to teach you throughout, but you can anticipate it in a sense if you do correct type of planning.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my whole thing. It's like not that I'm trying to be negative, right? It's just maybe things that I've been able to see. Um, Sometimes things involve much more studying than what most people think.
Of course, yes.
Now, like you did mention, it's case by case. Some things do require a reaction. Not that you shouldn't think, but like if your child's in danger and you need to react, then you react. You don't just be like, what is the smartest thing to do right now? Like, no, like, you got to react, right? And you got to react based on either prior experience or what you think the best next step to do is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at least with things that I believe those situations, maybe not all of them, but are exceptions, but putting those to the side, I believe a lot of things require planning.
I agree. Yeah.
You have the best outcome doing that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. But I think it's important for people to understand their own psychology of why people don't plan
Yeah,
ahead and why.
true. Yeah, I think I've done that myself.
We've all done this. All of us. But I think what's interesting is if we, and I'll end with this with for me for this law. A lot of the times it's like if we understand how humans operate, mentally, psychologically, subconsciously, consciously, and then we can catch ourselves. I'm not saying always, but a lot of times now we're more aware of what we do. So if we're aware now, we can counter it now. Oh, I'm doing this to protect myself, or I'm falling under the optimism bias versus the planning fallacy. I shouldn't do that. Let me front load the difficulty and let me plan ahead so I can be more successful or at least better my chances. So yeah.
Right. No, it reminds me a lot of like um there was a year you'll remember you and me were like, oh, we're gonna start this investment, right? I'm not gonna name it, but we're gonna start. We need to save an X amount of money. Like after you come back or after I finish school, whatever the case was,
Mm-hmm.
this and I remember you saying we have a year or we have this amount. I don't remember the time frame you put. But
Mm-hmm.
like we have this, and by this month we need to have this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I believe we were both able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's in a sense, it just reminded me of putting like a timeline or a deadline in a sense. Or like we need to achieve this goal, but that goal didn't come just because we naturally said, Aurus, where you need to have money by this time and that's it. No, it required, okay, in a sense, what's money? How do you save it? What habits you need to kill? What habits you need to do now to be able to have that money? How much do you make? Okay, then this is a realistic time frame and this and that, right? So a lot of things involved before we even achieve that goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember during that time process, it was like it's a very stressful type of plan. It's like, oh, okay, I only have this amount of time to be able to do it. But I know priorly I had to like take a lot of things away or stop doing a few things to be able to even achieve that, right? So that wasn't being vague. That was being very specific. And it obviously came with a lot of planning. Not that there can't be a degree of flexibility, because that is what the reversal talks about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says it is cliche among strategists that your plan must include alternatives and have a degree of flexibility, which is certainly true, right? Meaning, like, okay, if we didn't have it by March, but we can have it by April, that's in a somewhat being flexible, right? Like we're just extending it a month, but it's still happening in a sense in the same time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So be realistic, but at the same time, which is where you could be flexible, but obviously give yourself a timeline with a plan. Therefore, you know, I feel it'll give you more chance of success instead of being vague and not letting your ego get affected by it.
Yep. Okay.
Oh.
Correct, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know. Just things that came to mind at the
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's very good. You gave a real example.
right. Cool.
Yeah, I didn't have any more to add. What you said was like on the dot. It's like if I say anything, I'm just repeating myself now.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So power belongs to the strategic thinker, not the reactive one. That's what.
Ooh, clip that, guys. Clip it. Should I read Law 30?
Yeah, go for it.
So Law 30 says, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Judgment. Your actions must seem natural and executed with ease. All the toil and practice that go into them, and also all the clever tricks must be concealed. When you act effortlessly. Act effortlessly as you could do much more. Avoid the temptation of revealing how hard you work. It only raises questions. Teach no one your tricks, or they'll be used against you. Up to you. Do you want to start this, or should I start this?
Well, you are the sleight of hand master.
I am.
And the only reason I say that is because obviously, for whoever reads this chapter, look at this guy's cards.
Oh yeah, one-handed cut. Wait. Okay, continue. Sorry.
This chapter does focus, or at least the story that I found the most interesting. I'm sure you did as well.
The Houdini one,
right? And all the achievements that he had, and how he actually used this power, this law to impress others, right? Because everything that he did made things seem effortless, but it was just so amazing, right? But there was obviously more behind the scenes in a sense, right? Only because things seem effortlessly doesn't mean that it isn't trained or studied obsessively prior.
Beforehand, yeah.
Beforehand, right? These are just things you don't see. But if you would like to start, yeah, you could start.
No, I think, yeah, we're gonna get to that.
You're like Houdini 2.0.
Thank you. I am a great mentalist. I mean, he wasn't really about mentalism. He was more about like doing crazy feats, and he did a lot of crazy stuff.
And
escaping impossible.
Hold his breath underwater for like 90 minutes.
Yeah, he did some incredible things.
Yeah, I was like, is that even humanly possible, or is this just a trick?
No, some of the things he actually was able to do, like physically, but he had to train to physically do some of the stuff, right? But it's fascinating because thinking about this chapter, I was thinking about a lot of stuff, but you would think you wouldn't, like, I think for me at least, psychologically, for me, it's like, I wouldn't think this. Like, I would think if people saw how much work I'm putting into it, that would be inspiring for most people. But it does the opposite, because what I'm learning from this chapter is that people really don't want to follow people who grind or hustle. They want to follow people who already figure it out and make it seem effortlessly, who make it look like magic.
I believe both things could be true.
Me too. I do believe both things can be true, but I think one is more true than the other.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. I guess the average person is lazy, and whatever comes easier is more, I guess, impressive, or whatever seems more easier or effortless, right?
Hmm.
Rather than hard work.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, is it more impressive to watch Steph Curry like practice drills, shooting like 3 pointers, or like, or is it more fascinating and like magical and like emotional, like awesome when you actually see him play a real game? You see how effortless, how he dribbles, his tricks, the shots. It's the latter,
Right.
right?
Most people are gonna watch. I mean, there's a picture. I don't have it with me, but it's like um,
What's it say?
it goes. I wish I had it, but it's like the amount of people that help you, one person.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people that motivates you, three people. And like the amount of people to celebrate with you is like a whole bunch. So
Mm-hmm.
like,
That's good. That's good.
right. So like
That's good.
when you see the success of your achievements and everything that happened in your life, right? And how hard you work, there's always people watching and celebrating. Wow, he makes this seem so effortlessly. Like you said, Stephen Curry, guy can shoot from half court like nothing. And but that didn't just come from anything. That didn't come from, yeah, I'm a natural gifted shooter. No, I dedicated hours of my life to be able to get to, this good.
Mm.
But not a lot of people are there to watch. Not a lot of people are there to motivate, to support, to help. Therefore, people just, I guess, like to just watch the outcome of the effortless instead of the hard.
Yes. But this has to do with different psychological biases that we as humans have. There's something called, I wrote it down here somewhere. There's something called the effort penalty effect. The effort penalty. Have you heard of this?
Effort penalty effect sounds like there's a penalty towards giving effort.
It's close. Yeah. Basically, it's like if people see how hard something was for you and they saw the hard work you put into it, unconsciously in their minds, it downgrades your skill. And in their mind, they're like, oh, if it took him this long to get good at this, then maybe he's not that good. Or maybe if I put the same amount of work, I could be as good as him, right? There is this like bias and this effect that, again, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people, it's like if they know how much time it took you to learn that, they're like, oh, then maybe you're not that good. That's why it took you 1,000 hours to get that good, let's say at that skill, because you're actually not that good because you actually don't have natural talent. Because there have been studies
Mhm.
that people prefer quote unquote natural ability over earned ability, right? It's called the illusion of like having natural talent, right? Studies will show that there's something called a talent attribution bias. Talent attribution bias shows that people prefer to feel or know that this person is this good because it was natural. It's like we admire them. We admire this player, this athlete, this chess player, this thinker, right? We admire more of them if we think it came naturally versus they had to put on in all the work to get there, right?
Do
So
you
that's
think most people are like that, or is that like half of the world, or 50%?
that I have no idea. I didn't see the study. I read this in the American Journal of Psychology. They have like tons of studies, right? So I forgot which study it was, but I read something about the illusion of natural talent. I thought was pretty interesting.
Because you reminded me of like an example or of a debate that a lot of people get into when it comes to specific two individuals in sports. I don't know. I'm sure you know them, and I'll be brief about it. Um, like Messi and Ronaldo,
Okay.
like who's
Yes.
right? And everyone would always argue Messi is a God-given talent, right?
Yes.
And if you look at his body, I mean, it's improved over the years, but it was nothing crazy, right? It was nothing like, oh, he put hard work, he's in a sense, he's got muscles or whatever. Like he's he's just a God-given talent in a sense, the way he's able to move with the ball and play soccer in a sense, right? But Ronaldo, that came from like a poverty and really had to work, and you see like there's like so many videos of him going to the gym, working out, taking care of his body, like going the extra mile in a sense, and you could see it in his physique. And not that you could also say he's a god-given talent, maybe, but a lot of the argument is that he worked hard to get where he's at. Now I don't know who has more fans. um, because there's arguments for both, meaning there's like debate who's better. Oh, because one was God given, the other one was just hard work. So that's why I asked you, like, what side of do you think most people think like that?
I think most people prefer the natural talent or quote unquote natural talent, right? But most people who have quote unquote natural talent, let's put the exceptions, like people who are prodigies and who are geniuses. Let's put those two aside because it's not a lot, right? People that make something seem easy, a lot of the time it's not God-given talent. It's just, well, I mean, of course, yeah, maybe God give you the ability, the capacity to be able to be that good, right? But they also have to put in the work. And a good example of somebody like this was actually, you know who Gary Vee is, right?
Yeah.
So Gary Vee, years ago, he spoke a lot about people would go to him and say, wow, you became an overnight success, right? But Gary Vee's like, I did not become a millionaire overnight. It took me decades to become a millionaire. He's like, for I don't remember how many years, but like I think it was like more than 10 years. I didn't go on vacation. I never took a day off. I worked my butt off almost every day, right? It's just that it seems like it was overnight because you didn't see my journey. You didn't see all the hard work I did in private, or the learning, all the meetings, all the grinding, the effortless. He's like, I make it look easy because I've gotten good at it. So when you see that, you get inspired. And then a couple years ago, Gary Vee's whole thing was like, I'm going to show you behind the scenes how much work I put into it. And he would have camera people follow him all around. And you saw Gary Vee's entire day, how busy he was, the grind and the hustle. And when people would see that, a lot of people became very disappointed or like, oh, there's so much work to put into this. I didn't realize I don't want to sacrifice this or that, right? Well, Gary's like, well, that's what I'm trying to show you. It seems like I was an overnight success or I have this talent. I worked my ass to do this, and I really wanted the outcome. So look at everything I did. Even before, sadly, Charlie Kirk died. One of his last interviews, he was, I think, interviewed by this financial podcast, and he said, "Listen, if you want to be,
Yeah.
you saw that, right?
Yeah.
He said, if you want to be rich, he's like, listen, he said the last year I've been traveling more. He's like, I've traveled most of the year. I'm traveling. I study 3 hours a day at least so my knowledge can be up to par, right? I'm reading books. Like, that's not easy. It's not easy. He's practicing his public speaking skills. So it's like when you see Charlie Kirk debating, it's like, oh, he's so good. He makes it seem so easy. Privately, he's working his butt off. All these basketball players, doctors, surgeons, they're so good, but you didn't see all the work that went behind it. But the secret, I think this chapter is trying to teach us, and I want to go into the Houdini story because I think that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
is that you have to showing your skill is effortless and is earned in silence and displayed in control, right? That sadly, for most of the time, you need to show publicly how good you are, but not show the work you put into it, because then people being people are going to downgrade you, and they're going to think less of you. Sadly,
But
unless your whole spiel is your whole shtick is, I'm going to show you the hard work I put into it, so you see if you want to be like me, what you have to do.
I feel like a lot of people that show their skills effortlessly, um, when they're interviewed, they always mention how hard it was.
No, correct, but there's a difference between saying it and then showing it, right? Like for example, a magician, people who are really good mentalists or magicians, and then they do the card magic, the mentalism. I'm gonna guess your number, this or that, and it looks amazing. You know how much practice goes into learning your pattern, knowing different outs, the psychological tactics, the mechanical card moves you have to know. Like there's so much into it. If you actually saw what a magician does to practice, you would be bored. You would be so bored and you would be like, this is, I don't want to do this. Like, and it will kill the magic. It kills the magic. Once you know how the secret is done, it kills it. Right.
Well,
So this
yeah,
applies to other skills.
you're actually mentioning something that the chapter is saying in page 247 in the
Uh-huh.
interpretation, the last line. It says, nature does not reveal its tricks, and what imitates nature by appearing effortless approximates nature's power.
What page?
247.
Okay.
247 in the interpretation, the last line.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see it.
Yeah, nature does not reveal its tricks, meaning, like, I guess, like you're mentioning, you not revealing your tricks and what's done makes and making it seem effortlessly, as well as the chapters it says, gives it like that whoa effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people prefer that
Mm-hmm.
than seeing you practice for hours on something that seems boring in a sense.
And if you have that wow factor,
Mm-hmm.
even if you worked hard at it, which most of the time that's the case, it gives you like a mysterious aura that people just don't want to mess with. They're like, no, he's that good. He's that guy. We go to him for this, or he has that skill, or he has a photographic memory, or he is practiced. Like he's known for this,
Yeah.
and that can actually give you a lot of times a competitive advantage at work, during the dating scene, right, in your career, money wise. It gives you that advantage because a lot of times it is about being competitive in different industries. So if you're going to be like everyone else, what makes you so different? Sadly, being in a very competitive industry or in a competitive world, you always have to find your wow factor or your what's your angle,
So
right?
so connecting it to Houdini, I guess,
Yes.
to the audience it looked like magic.
Yeah.
If people saw the hours of preparation, it would have ruined the illusion.
Well, first of all, it would ruin the illusion, yes, because now people know how it's done. So that's why they say magician that doesn't reveal its secret. But also on top of that, it's because when people watch him, you're right. They're like, wow. They're like, this is magic, or this is black, or spirit, whatever thing that they would say. And it's that a lot of times, just talking about magic, magic is not about revealing the card or about guessing the number or the name. It's about making a moment, making that moment feel impossible, and that feeling, the impossible feeling, keeping that memory, that feeling, that memory in the person forever, right? So
How that made me feel when I saw it.
how to make you feel, correct?
So, okay.
And I think the story says that he was obsessed. It says here on page 249, right? It says in the first paragraph, it says Houdini never left anything to chance. Day and night, he studied the workings of locks, researched Sentry's all sleight of hand tricks, poured over books on mechanics, whatever he could use. Now, the context here, he's talking about, doing crazy escapes, right? From handcuffs or like being tied up. So he knew every lock, how to get out of things, like just everything about that. So no matter what situation he was put in, no matter how impossible it would look, he would figure out a way to get out of it. But because he studied and he learned, he was obsessed over this so about much, you couldn't contain him. He could get out no matter what, right? So people view that's why he's considered one of the best magicians in the entire world. But in reality, first of all, a lot of these secrets, you could find these secrets online or you could buy them and you could figure out how it was done. But people at times psychologically is like, I don't want to know. I want to feel that this person was that wow. He had that wow factor or that God given ability. Or like Messi, como hace los, no, I'm sorry, how Messi does the tricks and he's a lefty and he can make the ball do this and do that. It's like, I don't want to know. I just want to see that as like wow. Right? Because
Mhm.
people appreciate more God given talent or they appreciate more of the skill and not the behind the scenes.
Right. I mean, it does even say in page 248 that the effortlessness, which is the last paragraph, the effortlessness of Houdini's escapes led some to think he used occult forces, his superior physique abilities giving him special control over his body.
Psychic
which
ability.
I guess, like you mentioned, giving that like mysterious factor, that wow factor, gave people that feeling of like, well, I'll always remember this and the way it made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, not only is it mysterious, but now people start to like imagine, okay, there's no way he's doing it like this. He's got to be doing it like this, and that gives him like that. I don't know. I would call it like a dopamine spike, but it gives them like that feeling, like, oh, you know what? It can't be this. No, it's impossible. It's like when you watch a show, right? And then there's a thriller, and then it doesn't end, and then you got to watch the next episode. It forces you to continue to watch, right? Because you don't know what's gonna happen, or you don't know how it happened, right? And then next thing you know, same thing here. Many people thought, oh, he must be doing something out of body of nature, right? This is impossible. And it gave people that illusion, gave people to start assuming different things, and it kept them intrigued, I guess.
100% you're right in what you're saying. And you asked earlier, like, is this really the people prefer the grind or the skill? And
Hmm.
according to Robert Greene in page 251, I'm going to show you two things he wrote, two quotes. 251, the first paragraph, he wrote, "We all admire the achievement of some unusual feat, right? Like, but it is accomplished naturally and gracefully. Our admiration increases tenfold. Whereas to labor at what one is doing and to make bones of it shows an extreme lack of grace and causes everything, whatever it's worth, to be discounted." So, see, if people see how it's done or how you got that skill, the work, he's basically saying us as humans, we start to show a lack of grace and we discount whatever how good they are because now we're seeing the work. And then that was the first paragraph, second, third, and the fourth paragraph, same page. He then writes, "What is understandable is not awe-inspiring." Right? We tell ourselves we could do as well if we had the money and time. Avoid the temptation of showing how clever you are. It is far more clever to conceal the mechanisms of your cleverness. So you see, right? So
Hmm.
like, so like, we as humans, we like to justify ourselves, which again, it makes sense. This is just how we're programmed, where it's
That
like this, like for example, like I've met people um who they'll watch certain YouTubers or certain athletes on YouTube, right? And they're like, hey, this guy plays street ball. I'm also a great street baller. I could be as good as he does, but guess what? I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm not as successful as he is because he has all the time and he gets money from sponsors. So all he does is play street ball and look how good he is. Look how successful he is. I could do the exact same thing. See, he's already discounting how good he is. He's saying if all I had was the money and the time, I could be as good as him or better, which maybe is true. Maybe it is true. Maybe it is. Of course, it's just the free will, the decision. This guy decided to actually pursue it now and to go full, to do everything, right? So you see, it's like we as humans, it's like for the most part, we're gonna say, listen, I could be as good as this guy if I also started at the same age, if I had the best trainers, if I had the same money. Which again, it might be true. It might. So you see, if people understand how good you got there, people are going to discount it. But if people don't know or you're a mystery, even if maybe logically you could be like, well, he probably just started training, being an MMA fighter when he was young and then he just got that good. You might know it logically, but if you don't actually see the mechanisms and you don't know, and he's a mystery, no matter what skill or thing we're talking about, you're going to see them at a much like a more of a God awe-inspiring level because you're not talking about the mechanisms or the mechanisms behind it. You just see them as raw talent, God raw talent. So it's fascinating.
No, it is fascinating. I probably skipped that part because it does say we tell ourselves we could do as well if we had the money and time, and there's been moments where even myself, I I could discount somebody because I said if I had the money and time, I'd be able to do it too.
Which maybe is true.
Which
Maybe
maybe
it's
it's
true.
true, maybe it's not, but it's like that middle take where we don't. It's the unknown, right?
Well, the only way to actually know if it's true or not is you have to do the same thing.
All right.
Right. But then you have to ask yourself, do I actually want that? Do I want a life like that? Or do I want to really play basketball 6 days of the week for 12 hours a day and make my living like
Then
that?
the older person could be like, "Oh, I could have done that as well. I just didn't have the opportunity this person had at that age." So, and then
Which is maybe true too. I mean, I think some people are just justifying themselves, but I also believe that some people, that is true. Maybe they just couldn't afford it. They had to work because they had 6 kids or
yeah,
whatever the case is. Maybe it is possible, right? So from what I learned is that I think if you have an interesting skill or you're in the workplace, you don't give away your secrets. You don't give away your secret unless that's how you make money. You give away your secrets to your skill, or you're trying to show the behind the scenes to what you're doing, then that's different. That's completely different, right? But I think for the most part, keep your competitive edge, keep your skill, and just don't reveal. Just be another Houdini.